Can you see that? Chosen one. Although these trusses, now it's ready to harvest again. How fun is this? Good morning. Welcome back to Sage and Stone Homestead. My name is Heather. We're going to do a garden tour today and actually a little bit of harvest. My garden right now is in a little bit of a transition between the spring and summer garden and my fall garden. Some of my fall garden things have germinated, so I'm very excited to show you those. But we've got a needy boy over here that wants a bean. Do you want a bean? He's gotten very used to this routine. Okay, now that we've paid the bean tax, can we get to doing what we're gonna do today? So when we first come into the greenhouse, things are looking very lush and full and lovely still, especially this Malibar spinach. This thing just loves the heat, and it's recently started to put on its flowers, which really, that is all they are. This little tiny, like pink jelly bean looking thing. The first time that I grew these, I kept waiting for like petals. But you kind of don't see that. It's like this little jelly bean with a hole in the middle. Apparently there's quite a bit of nectar in there or something. The wasps have been loving those flowers, and they usually really go after sweet things. Thankfully we're out early enough in the morning where we're not seeing just a whole ton of those. But yeah, that is all that these little flowers consist of. And eventually when they're pollinated, they turn into these little purple berries. Can you see those? Oh, right there. And they don't taste like much. They taste like the leaves taste, which there's a greenness to them, but it's like a mild cucumber flavor. But the cool thing about these is that they're very, very pigmented. So I'm just gonna squeeze it right here. The seeds are very big on the inside, but can you see that? Super bright purple. People have dyed many things with this berry. I have yet to do so, but one of these days I will try it. One of the things I'm not sure about, like let's say I wanted to dye a rabbit hide or something, I don't know how to get this color to set. I know I could probably temporarily stain it, but how do we get it to stay? So I don't know. If you know, let me know. But the Malibar spinach is so prolific in producing seeds that we had to pick out so many volunteers that popped up in this space this year. This is the 2 plants that I allowed to grow. Obviously it's plenty for us. Back behind it are my cucamelons, and these are not as full as they would be. I had some irrigation issues a few weeks ago. They have bounced back and have started to put on a second flush of little cucamelons here. You can see them all up here. So essentially it's like we've got a replant for our fall garden, and so I'll take it. The cucamelons have actually started to kind of make a drape here, and they've connected with the tomato that's right across the trellis from them. So we've got this neat situation where the cucamelon is actually helping hold this tomato up. That's pretty neat looking. These cherry tomatoes are part of what I would like to harvest today. These are the Sweet Million cherry tomato. They have done very well. We bought these starts from our local nursery. They've put on quite a lot of these bright red fruits, and they've actually got a lot more coming. We had quite a few days of very high temperatures, and everything just kind of stalled during that time, but the last week has been very nice. We are getting a little bit warmer, but the plants were still triggered to put on more flowers. Now you'll see here that some of these blossoms have dropped, but I think plenty of them are going to set fruit where it'll be fine. We'll get quite a good fall harvest, I think. You can see how big this truss is here. Isn't that incredible? And if I shake this, you can see some of the blossoms dropping. Down here, I just planted some rainbow carrots using seed tape. And the seed tape was really cool. I have never planted carrots or anything using seed tape. It was like this paper material that reminded me a lot of the paper that you get on the outside of disposable straws, very thin. And I just laid it out and it has dissolved, and we're getting some very good germination in this bed. So not everything is spaced perfectly. We will have to do some thinning, but it made planting these carrots very easy. It's a little bit hard to tell the carrots from, you know, the green flowers that have fallen, but they're here and they're doing well. One thing I may have to do is tie up these tomatoes back up to the trellis or do some pruning just so I can give my carrots some light. This is really what I care about most in this bed at this point. I've gotten so many cherry tomatoes, and I have more over here that are going to be staying there. I don't have anything to plant there for at least a month. So So I genuinely may just cut these back so that I can give light preference to these carrots. Now that is something that I'm probably going to want to do soon. I don't want to shock these guys by them being in the shade and used to the shade for quite some time and then I suddenly give them more sun. I could do that if I planned it right and pruned these guys on a day where I know it's going to be cloudy or it's going to be intermittently cloudy for a few days, or when they're very, very young like this. They have just emerged, they don't even know what full sun is like, and so doing it sooner is probably better. Now down here, I just cleared out this bed. I had been growing different types of squash on this side of the trellis, and I actually do have more squash growing here. These are Tromboncino squash, and I did plant them heavily and need to thin them out. I will show you how I do that, but we've got at least 2 plants in each hole. See, one here and one here. To not disturb the roots of the plant that I want to keep, I've actually got a 3rd one coming up there. I'm not sure if you can see that. I will worry about that later, but this one I'm just going to pinch off so that we don't disturb the roots of this one. And I am going to cover it again with this little cage. I'm worried about birds. That's what I have this here for. There is just something about young, tender seedlings that birds absolutely love. And those guys are the arch nemesis to me in my garden out of everything. So yeah, I'm just going to be pinching these off. And so we've chosen one per hole that we would like to get big and to produce. The risk of not thinning them out is just that there's going to be many plants competing for the same nutrition, and we are not going to get the growth or the yield that we hope for out of them if we put them too close together like that. I really like Tromboncino squash. It grows very fast. It's going to attach to this trellis, and the gorgeous long fruits are just going to hang down. One of the things that I like most about Tromboncino is that they have a very good pest resistance. We have seen squash bugs here, and we have seen squash vine borer, and they hold up really well to both of those things. Now this time of year, we have a little bit less of that pressure. It's like they have almost a season for their breeding, and a lot of times fall planting of squash work out really well for us. I have this lavender plant here, and I had a question for those of you who are proficient in herbs, or even if you don't feel like you know a whole lot about herbs. If you know anything about lavender, I was wondering, do I have to wait for it to flower to harvest it, or can I do something with the leaves? Because it hasn't flowered all year. I don't know exactly why. I bought it as small starts. There's actually 4 of them in this pot, and it's grown by about a foot, hasn't put any flowers out, but these leaves smell lovely, and I don't know if there's something I can do with them. So let me know if you know. Sadly, you may be able to tell behind my lavender, I did have one of my branches from this peach tree break. Likely it was from the weight of all of these fruit. That makes me really sad. I haven't come through and trimmed this off, mostly because I wanted to show you this. But it does have some remaining branches with some remaining fruit that has started to turn that lovely red peachy color. Now some of it, oh, this is on the broken branch, but I have noticed some of the ones that are not on broken branches, some of the peaches are splitting, and that's another thing that I don't know a lot about. I'm assuming it's from excess water, but I'm not sure. Here are the other cherry tomatoes that we are going to harvest today. These were all volunteers that either volunteered in this bed or I moved them into this bed. On this side, I have a red type. It looks a lot like the Sweet Million that we have over there, but that's not what these are. This is the first year that I've grown Sweet Million, and because this volunteered here, this is something that came from whatever I grew last year, probably a similar variety called Super Sweet 100, although these trusses don't look like Super Sweet 100. Those ones don't. The trusses that are on a Super Sweet 100 are those long, like ponytail looking trusses with 2 fruits on either end going down. This one is not that way. And this is one of the interesting things about volunteers, is it's really interesting to see what the genetics do when you just kind of let them go wild. Down here is a yellow variety of tomato. You see them down here, they're called the blue cream berry. A lot of them are shaded, so we're not seeing a lot of the bluing on them. You can kind of see it over here, but let's get to harvesting these guys. What I've been doing with these is making a whole lot of tomato confit. So what I'll do is put all the cherry tomatoes on a sheet pan and put some olive oil over them with some garlic and some herbs from the garden, and I will roast it in the oven until the tomatoes have split, released their juices, and charred just a little bit. Then I will remove them from the oven, let the pan cool, and then put everything in freezer containers and stick it in the freezer until later. And what we can do with that is add it to things like pastas. If you were gonna make like a chicken salad or a rabbit meat salad, you could mix it in with that meat to really spice things up for your chicken salad sandwiches, or pasta salad that has chicken or whatever in it. And one of the things that I enjoy doing, because I don't tend to can a lot of pasta sauce, and we're a 6-person family, so 1 quart of pasta sauce isn't quite enough, but 2 quarts is too much. What I like to do is take 1 quart of pasta sauce and then one of those freezer containers of Confi, and that just helps bulk up my pasta sauce. It adds a lot of texture and flavor. It's a very good way to use up cherry tomatoes. One thing that I've seen a lot of in the greenhouse are these army worms. This is a small one here, and this one here is a little bit bigger. They've been pretty prolific this year, which is a little bit strange to me. We've had a lot of wasps too, and wasps do predate on things like caterpillars, and I guess maybe there's enough of them to go around, because I've seen the wasps. We still have a lot of caterpillars. I haven't done anything to treat them. You can treat them with a product called BT. It's organic, and if I had a decent infestation, I would treat. It's not that I'm against treating at all. It just hasn't been bad enough. It's been tolerable. We're picking them off. Has kept the numbers down enough to where we are getting a very good harvest. When I'm harvesting cherry tomatoes and I have both of the red kind and the yellow kind, I like to do what I can to harvest the red ones first, because they have a harder skin, and if I put a lot of weight on the yellow skin tomatoes, they tend to split, and then that attracts things like fruit flies, and that's not good. Not half bad. There are some tomatoes that are very high up there that I'm probably not going to be able to get. That's fine. Over here I have another peach tree. These are Bonfire peach trees, if I neglected to mention the variety before. This one I did kind of link some of these hooks together to give it some support for its branches, so I think this one will be okay. The peaches are getting very big, so we're probably a couple of weeks away from harvest. This is one where we can see that there's a split. This is what I'm seeing. It's not great. Peach people, what's going on? Is that too much water? That would be something I would do. This bed that's right here, I just cleared off some personal sized melons that I had growing over here, and I've actually planted some more. Everywhere you see a stake, there are some more melons there. And on this side, I have left the dead melons because my lima beans are pretty well intertwined with them, and I don't really want to hurt the lima beans. Now, I did notice that some of the pods are starting to split. The pods will do this naturally. This is how they naturally drop their seed. Actually, oh yeah, they're just slid down in there. Can you see that? So because I'm seeing that, I am going to harvest the dry pods that I can, just so we can get as much harvest as we can. If we do not come out and do this, when I notice that, the birds will get at them and they'll just drop and be lost to the soil, which could mean some volunteers, which I do like, but we like harvest better. I've talked about lima beans as a set it and forget it type crop, and obviously there's a point where you have to get at your harvest, but I'm pretty sure I put these in the garden before our estimated last frost date in the late winter, early spring. So it would have been late March or early April, and I haven't touched them until now. And we're early to mid-August, so to a point it has been set it and forget it, but you can set it and then forget it until it comes to harvest time, which is pretty nice if you ask me. There we go. First lima bean harvest. I'll worry about shelling these later. Well, it's the first harvest this year. I have planted these before. I do have some peppers and we'll talk about those, but much of the rest of the greenhouse is on reset mode. I have a plan to come through here and really cut this herb green stalk back. The reason that I haven't is that I'm pretty sure there are some wasps that have made nests in and around this area, and quite frankly they freak me out, so that genuinely might wait until we get a freeze here in the greenhouse, which could be some time. But as far as the rest of these beds go, I have an amendment plan. Right now, I've just piled dead weeds and things in here, and then I will be throwing in some manure from the barn, some manure from our rabbits, and some extra bags of soil in here to get them ready for fall planting. A lot of what's going in here are cabbages and different broccolis. I have a couple of those seedlings out here because they didn't fit under my grow light. I have a little bit of regret with doing this. They are getting ravaged by beetles, and I don't think that these are actually going to survive. What I could do is cover these with a finer mesh netting, sprinkle them with diatomaceous earth, something like that. Truthfully though, when seedlings are this little and they're impacted this severely, there's not a lot of coming back from it. It's just not worth it. Those kinds of things are worth it on bigger plants, not necessarily on seedlings. They're kind of permanently set back when they're damaged this badly. So I think I'm just gonna leave them, and we will have 8 less broccolis, which is pretty significant, but that's okay. This kind of thing happens, which is why you should plan to plant more than you actually want. Now, I want a lot of broccoli, so I didn't exactly do that, but I did plant more than I really had planned to plant. Let's just say that. Now down here, I do have some jalapenos that I have seriously trimmed. I'll put a clip in here from the last time I showed you the garden on tour. These were just so laden down with peppers that the branches were bending over and snapping. So my husband and I did come through here and do a pretty big harvest. There are a couple that we missed, but we harvested everything that we could that was of good size. My husband said old school Christmas light size or larger, and that was perfect description for it. And then I severely cut them back just so they could get a little bit more bushy and a little less lanky, and maybe we'll get a second harvest out of these. The plants have already started to put out smaller shoots from where we've cut. You can see here I've cut 2 branches off and we've got some new growth coming out right there, so they've responded well. In the greenhouse, we should not really get a freeze that infiltrates here until about mid-November. We get about a month extension time into the fall, so we'll see. These guys are touching the end wall, which does matter. If there's not a cushion of air between the plants, they are more likely to freeze because the frost will settle on the outside of the greenhouse, especially on this side. This is the north side, and the leaves that are touching it will get damaged, but the ones that are out here won't. The whole plant won't die until we get 32 degrees or below in the greenhouse. Here's my other pepper, which we also did a major harvest on, and it's starting to put out some more flowers, so we are going to get another good flush. We've left some of the smaller ones on here to get a little bit bigger. This is the golden jalapeno and habanero cross that one of our members sent, so we've called this our Tatergate pepper. Down here I have some carrots that I did not actually plant. I take that back. I did put carrot seeds in here, but I planted them for a different harvest, and I had already harvested out of this bag, and then I guess the seeds that were in here that hadn't germinated took the opportunity to germinate, and I've got another basket of carrots in here. Now I'm letting these go. I've never tried to grow carrots through summer intentionally. These are pretty well shaded by, you know, the 30% shade cloth that I have on the greenhouse and all of these plants that I have here. So they might do halfway okay. I don't see any signs of flowering, which is one of the things that you will see with carrots in the heat, especially if they've been in the ground a long time. But so far so good. I'm just gonna leave them. Next door I have a stevia plant that I have made a pretty major harvest on. Maybe it was a month ago, I feel like it was less than that, but it looks like this is ready to harvest again. I mean, I cut this back, you might be able to see. There's a little stick down here. I shaved it down to about 6 inches high, and now it's got a lot more growth. So that's very exciting. We get to do another harvest of that. I had made some stevia drops using the stevia last time. This time I think I would like to leave some as whole leaves to put in some tea blends and things to naturally sweeten them as the tea steeps. This is my first year growing stevia and I have really loved it. Yeah, I see a pumpkin blossom. Usually pumpkins and other squash bloom in the morning. That there looks like a male flower. This is my volunteer pumpkin patch. These Dutch fork pie pumpkins volunteered here from pumpkins that I fed out to my goats last year, and I have seen a couple pumpkins in here. There is another bloom right there. Oh, there's a big pumpkin. I can't really get in here right now. I don't want to accidentally hurt the vine. I care more about harvesting these pumpkins than I do about, you know, seeing them when they're green, and so I don't want to damage the vine right now. But I see at least 2 big pumpkins in here. There's probably 5 or 6 at least. There's a big one right there. I know that there's one over there. The orange is part of what I've covered it with. That's not the actual pumpkin, but there's a plant out there, and there's one coming out way over here. Oh, look. Oh my gosh, look at that. I am definitely going to have to cradle that guy. Now, this bag that I have here with its little twine at the top is not going to be sufficient to hold this pumpkin until its maturity, but it's gonna do for now. A lot of the times, fruits like pumpkins, they don't just automatically drop when they are ripe, but these pumpkins get so big and heavy that it's going to snap the vine. So I'm going to take this dead blossom off here so that we don't risk rotting the end out. And then I'm just going to tie this end to the trellis, and I'm going to have to keep watch of this because, like I said, I am going to have to do something more substantial for this pumpkin as it matures and gets a lot bigger. There we go. I have 5 of these Roselle plants scattered around the homestead. There's 2 of them here, 1 here, and then there's 1 on the other end of the cow pea row here. I thought about harvesting these today. I may leave them. These are a lot less likely to split open. And it's starting to get hot out this morning. But the cow peas are lush and lovely and doing their thing. I have 3 different types here. It's the chicken and dumplings cow peas, the purple hull pink eye peas, and regular old black eye peas. Look at that. That there is one, you know, stem of blooms that has turned into a Bob Marley looking situation over here. These guys are doing well, and I think that they will be fine until I can harvest them later. I did have some cucamelons planted over here. They are doing less well, so I think I'm just going to leave those for now. I may end up taking out these grow bags and sticking them in the greenhouse, putting something like carrots or other roots in them for fall. Down here in the middle, I'm just growing weeds. This here is Japanese knotweed, which the honeybees really do like. This plant is invasive, so are honeybees. They get along, they like each other. Now down here, we didn't get to visit this the last garden tour because there were some birds over here protecting their young that were fledging, but here are my dead tomatoes that are down here. Now they're not completely dead, obviously, but they are probably the sickest. I take that back, they're not the sickest looking, but they're among the sickest plants that I have. They are still producing, and they're also still kind of infested with tomato hornworms. Come here. Gross. But yeah, this is something that I'm just coming through. I am watering, I am weeding, and I am harvesting, but I'm not trying to keep the plants alive more than that. I do not have a plan of what I'm going to do out here for fall time. This might be a space that I reset and plant a cover crop on. I have cover crop seeds, and I've talked about doing this for at least a year. This is probably the space that's good for that. It's the farthest from my house, which is probably part of the reason that these aren't doing super great, because I'm just not down here as frequently as I'm down here, you know, caring for my goats and things. But there are some lovely fruits. We've got some more way up high I have seen a little bit of what looked like blossom end rot on some of the tomatoes. Ooh, goodness. And that was after a lot of rain. Now, what blossom end rot is, it's a sign of a calcium deficiency, and it's not necessarily that your soil is lacking in calcium. What it can be is that the plants can't take the nitrogen up, whether it be that there's like an ant tunnel going on in the soil, or you've gotten like a lot of rain that's washed the nutrients out, or it just prevents adequate uptake. It can, you know, dilute what's in the soil and make it seem like there's less when there's really just too much water. And so I haven't done anything to amend in here, and the new fruits that are coming on now do not have blossom end rot, so it was probably just from the rain. We do still have some sizable tomatoes coming on over here, which is nice. The large harvests of our big slicer tomatoes are basically done, but these, you know, onesie twosie type tomatoes ensure that we have some for fresh eating. Now, before we go outside into the perennial garden, I want to show you what's going on with the fall and winter starts. I had told you that these are mostly broccoli and cabbages. The broccoli are down here. Aren't they looking lovely? There's some more broccoli up here, and I do have some purple of Sicily cauliflower, which acts more like broccoli, so I'm just calling it broccoli for right now. And then I do have some cabbages over here. The goal is to get them out into the greenhouse in about a month, and so far they look good. Much better than the ones that I had out there that have the beetle damage. These guys are going to be what does well out there. And here is the wild and crazy perennial garden. I do have some annual things out here, but I am working towards making this fully perennial over the next few years. The thing that I put in the garden this year that is a perennial is this passion flower. Isn't it beautiful? We're getting more and more flowers by the day. This is actually doing way better than I thought it was gonna do. This started out as 2 little tiny starts that I got from Etsy, and not even the earliest part of the year. It was a little bit later that I put them in, but they don't care. They are doing great. They've reached the top of the trellis, and I don't even know if you're gonna be able to see how many buds are just right there. Tons of flowers. We haven't seen any of the passion fruits yet, but I think they're coming. I do not know officially if this is the case, but my theory is that they also have male and female blossoms, a lot like cucumbers, a lot like things like loofah, and with those, the male blossoms come out first and the female blossoms tend to come out later. There's so many blossoms on here, it will shock me if we do not get any fruit. Check them out, aren't those wild looking? Crazy. So we've got the ones that I purchased over here, and then on this side, we have some of the passion flower that I started from seed. This seed was from fruit that I found on my back fence, and it's got these cute little tendrils that it's using to attach to this trellis. And this may or may not blossom this year as well. It depends on how soon our frost comes. I don't think I've mentioned it in a little while, but we're growing in zone 7A in southwestern Kentucky. Our estimated first frost is the 2nd or 3rd week in October. So really not that far away. August, September, October. It could be really creeping up on us in 2 months, which is wild, but also I'm kind of excited. Holy moly. I promise I do come out into this garden frequently, but I feel like that was not here last time that we were out here. Was it? Look at how big that is. So this is a loofah gourd, if you are not aware. This actually volunteered at a different spot, and I moved it here so that it could benefit from having the trellis, but there's a gourd here, and there's one right there. And I did notice a couple of days ago that there was a big one growing over here. So I did have a lot of sunflowers growing here. You can see the remnants of them. At this point, everything that is green is loofah, and everything that is yellow are the loofah blooms. Yeah, this is the big loofah that I noticed the other day when I was looking at these poor sad sunflowers. But look at them, they have a second life as being a loofah trellis. And that's pretty cool. I didn't actually need any more loofah this year because I still have a lot of excess loofah from last year. Some that I have actually peeled and dried and some that I haven't yet. I just have the dry, brown, crispy loofah still sitting in a milk crate in my shed. Yeah, there's a loofah there, there's some there. Well, I guess we'll be getting quite a few this year. Right here I have some tomatoes that in the last garden tour I showed were really starting to die back. Very interesting development now that our heat has cooled down. These guys have gotten a second wind. We've got some fresh growth and even some fresh blooms. Isn't that insane? These are the Heatmaster tomatoes, which are a determinate hybrid tomato. And I have discovered though that they don't necessarily have a determinate amount of fruit that they'll put on. They do have a determined height, like they don't get much bigger than, you know, about 3.5, 4 feet tall, but they seem to really love pumping out the fruit. Because see here, more blooms and more fruit on this plant that should have died. I guess we'll call this the Lazarus Row of Tomatoes because they're back. Now they're not the most beautiful thing, but look at them trying to be productive. I might as well let them, right? I have nothing else that I plan to put here. Here's some pretty good evidence of what I was talking about over on the lane. This looks like blossom end rot, which is probably from the rain we got. This tomato is blushing, which sometimes tomatoes will start to ripen their fruit when they know their fruit is damaged. And so this could be from that, but it's also a little bit older than the ones that are over here. And these guys do not have blossom end rot. It's not something that really comes on too much later than this, so it's probably just from the rain that we had. Yeah, also all of this disease was from the rain that we had. I did get my canning goals met, so all of these bonus fruits are just that. They're bonus fruits. I'm happy to have them. I think there's similar things going on over here. This is crazy looking, you guys. I haven't weed whacked out here in probably a month. But yeah, we've got tomatoes that have died and gone by, but look at them with their second life. That's crazy. We're just gonna allow it amongst our volunteer zinnia. It's gonna be a very fun bonus tomato experiment. Even this tomato, the deadest of them all, look at that. Brand new growth, brand new buds. What a lot of people do to get fall tomatoes, especially if they have a longer season, is they will take a sucker off of their healthy plant in springtime. This here is a sucker. We've got kind of the main stem of the plant, a leaf, and then this sucker grows in the middle or in the armpit leaf node of the plant. They will pinch off this part here and they will root this in either water or soil and get a brand new plant for the fall time. I guess what I can do, since these plants did not completely die back, is just let them regenerate from what's dead and was left here and hopefully get a fall harvest. That'll be fun to see. The Carlos Muscadine grapes are still doing their grape thing. Got lots of clusters on, and I think in about a month we'll start harvesting these. The grapes that are over here though, we did harvest quite a few of these. There's probably, yeah, there's some still left out here. This is another thing that the wasps are really liking coming by and partaking of. These are the Sunbelt grapes, and this is our first year getting actual fruit off of these. They plant these plants and the other grapes that we have. We put them in last year. The plants were about maybe 1.5 feet high, and now we're getting fruit this year, which is really special. This one had bird poop on it, so I'm gonna put it down. Oh, do you see the wasps right here? There's 2 of them. I'm gonna leave. You can have it. You know what? That's fine. We'll just come over here and hopefully not surprise a wasp and get one that doesn't have bird poop on it. There's more wasps over there. It's kind of scary. I need to come pick them either super early in the morning or later at night when these guys go to bed, but y'all, each grape has 1 little seed in it. I guess it's not little, but compared to the size of the fruit, it's not like the pit of a cherry or anything like that. It does have a little bit of a thicker skin, but you almost don't notice because the flavor is identical to Welch's grape juice, the purple one. Identical. Which, I don't know why that surprises me, that grape juice would taste like a grape, or that a grape would taste like grape juice, but it does. Probably because artificial banana has ruined me. But those are so good. We harvested about 1/2 gallons worth ate them all in one weekend, and now we'll be picking here and there around the wasp to get what's left. Next year we should have a very good harvest, enough to preserve with. My 3 other Roselle plants are out here. These are bigger. Now they do have access to more nutrition, being that they are in a bed. I know it's hard to see the bed right now, but they are in a bed. This one is a little bit shaded, so it's smaller, but we should be getting a decent harvest of calyxes this fall. I can't wait to see those flowers. Now, over here, I have a volunteer Dutch fork pie pumpkin. Same pumpkin that's growing over by the lane and by the goat pasture. And in here, there is a pumpkin. And I know there's at least one more, but this one has started to turn. And I've been watching it closely, and it's still not quite ready to pick. I'm worried a little bit about slugs kind of ruining the rind. I can see that there's some snails on it already. I'm just gonna be okay with whatever happens to it and leave it. But how I know that this is not ready is when I put my fingernail on the rind of this pumpkin, I do see an impression left, and so it's not ready to come off. I could pick it and do something with it pretty quickly, but I'd like to leave it so that if I need to store it even for a short length of time, it'll store better if that rind is cured. So yes, there's that pumpkin there. The vine is pretty long and it may put out more pumpkins. And I know it's probably hard to orient yourself, but we were just over there and the vine comes out over here. And I noticed the other day that we have another pumpkin right there. So I think there's probably at least 1 or 2 more that we haven't seen. Oh. That one, the rind is more cured on. Yeah. Can you see I've got my fingernail pressing on this and we're not seeing anything left? I might go get my nippers because a volunteer pumpkin harvest would just round this out so nicely. So there's a couple snails on this one too, but it doesn't look like they're doing any damage to the rind. How fun is this? Oh, I had so hoped that this variety would volunteer on our property this year. We gave it plenty of chances to. So neat. We grew this variety last year in the pig pen. I had 14 Dutch fork pie pumpkin vines that I didn't do anything with but plant them and water them. I had pigs in that pen previously, and I did plant the pumpkins where the pigs had been using their bathroom the previous year, so there was that kind of nutrition in there, but they were a pretty hands-off crop, and a lot of them were laying down in the grass. I didn't realize there was 80 pumpkins out there, but there was some measure of damage, but there were so many pumpkins it didn't matter. We got plenty to preserve. I still have a lot of pumpkin preserved, and then there was plenty to feed out to the animals and get a bonus crop this year. I think that pumpkin vine is probably the most exciting thing that's happening back here. Everything else is just sort of in the waiting phase for the next stage of things, whether it be ripening the grapes, flowering over here for the Roselle. Our blueberries are done for the season, so they're just hanging out waiting for winter. I do have my green stalk over here that is planted with Kalima bush beans, and I probably do need to water over here, so I need to make sure I go ahead and do that. They are doing well though. I'm excited for a fall harvest of green beans. I have canned a lot of green beans for the winter season, but you know, a bonus crop would be really nice. Plus, I didn't have anything else that I really wanted to put here, and beans are a good, quick turnaround crop, usually about 60 days from seed to harvestable beans. So it's a fun thing to put in here. And the plants are big. I feel like we should see flowers probably by the next tour. Now, something else that I've noticed has really had a boom in the last little bit are these Peruvian Zenia. I have grown these a few years and I have never seen them so lush and lovely, and it's actually pretty amazing. It looks like the wind has kind of blown them over, but they've just turned up towards the sun. Oh, isn't that gorgeous? So yeah, that's the garden tour this week. There's a lot of things that are in transition, but we've still got a lot of good harvest coming in and a lot of stuff to look forward to. Hopefully things are growing well wherever you are. I'll see you guys again soon. Oh no! Oh no, oh no, oh no. That chased me out.